The team pushed a 7-foot-wide steel caisson past 200 feet into the Oak Island money pit, deeper than any manned excavation in the island's history. What came up at 100 feet was a medieval stone cannonball made of volcanic rock from the Azores. At 150 feet, they hit the void. A space the team had chased all season, one that showed gold and silver traces on camera, delivered cobblestone and empty space. No metal, no vault, just boulders. The deepest dig in Oak Island history found something at every level, just not what 230 years of searchers expected. Deeper than anyone has gone. For 2 centuries, depth has been the enemy on Oak Island. Every generation of searcher hit the same wall: water, and every generation thought they'd be the one to beat it. The Onslow Company flooded at roughly 90 feet in 1803. They were the first organized group to dig into the money pit after 3 teenagers stumbled on the depression in 1795. And they hit the Atlantic before they hit anything else. The Truro Company made it to about 118 feet a half-century later, in 1849. Same result: water rushed in faster than they could bail it out. The island had a defense mechanism, and it worked. William Chappell reached 163 feet in 1931, the deepest anyone had gone at that point. He pulled up an axe, an anchor fluke, and a miner's pick at 127 feet. Real artifacts, evidence of previous human activity underground. But the water won again, and the shaft was abandoned before he could go further. Robert Dunfield tried a different approach entirely in 1965. Forget the shafts, forget pumping water. He brought in a 70-ton crane and a clam bucket and simply tore the earth open, an open pit 134 feet wide and 134 feet deep. It was the most destructive excavation in the island's history. It obliterated the original pit site, mixed soil layers that could never be unmixed, and destroyed archaeological context that can never be recovered. The hole told him nothing. The damage was permanent. Then Dan Blankenship drilled borehole 10X in 1971. A narrow 27-inch casing punched through bedrock at 181 feet and kept going to 235, deeper than anyone before him. A camera lowered into the cavity returned grainy, flickering footage that Blankenship claimed showed a chest and a human body. The images were ambiguous. The interpretation was not, at least not to Blankenship, but the bore was too narrow to enter. 27 inches across, he could see down. He just couldn't get there.
There's some new information that Doug has found in Dan's files regarding the money pit.
That was the state of the art for over 4 decades. Every attempt to go deep enough ended the same way: flooded, stuck, or too narrow to matter. Season 13 changed the equation entirely. ROC Equipment and Solitanche Bachi Canada brought in a 135-ton telescoping drill rig capable of reaching 230 feet. The caisson diameter started at 8.5 feet, narrowing to 7 feet at depth. For the first time in Oak Island history, the team had a shaft wide enough to stand inside and deep enough to reach bedrock. Not a camera on a cable, not a core sample, a space a person could walk into. 3 caissons went down: Peacock 1, MS1, and Karma 1. Karma 1 reached 212 feet in the solution channel. Peacock 1 hit bedrock at 211 feet. These were walk-in shafts, and they went deeper into the money pit than any human being has ever stood. What came up at 100 feet? The headline discovery didn't come from the bottom. It came from the wash plant, where spoils from Peacock 1 were being sifted at the surface. Derek Couch spotted it first, a round stone object with tool marks on its surface recovered from material originating roughly 100 feet down. Archaeometallurgist Emma Culligan CT scanned the specimen and found peck marks across its surface, consistent with deliberate stonemasonry. Archaeologist Laird Niven examined the marks and dated the stone shot type to the 14th and 15th centuries, before cast iron replaced stone as standard military ordnance. These were cannonballs from an era when ships fired carved rock. Then the geology broke it open. Dr. Robert Rayside at Acadia University analyzed the composition: olivine gabbro and olivine basalt, volcanic rocks. Neither mineral exists anywhere in Nova Scotia's geological profile, not in the bedrock, not in the glacial till, not on the mainland, or any of the surrounding islands. His assessment pointed to the Portuguese Azores. volcanic islands sitting in the middle of the Atlantic, roughly 1,000 miles west of Portugal. A Portuguese military museum confirmed the dimensions matched a 15th or 16th century ship-mounted cannon. In the war room, Marty said he was 90% certain the artifact was a projectile from the 1300s or early 1400s. That's not a hedge. From Marty, who measures his words more carefully than anyone else on the team, 90% is about as close to certainty as he gets on camera. A fourth potential stone shot turned up later in MS1 spoils from a similar depth. Charles Barkhouse confirmed it resembled the earlier finds. 4 stone projectiles, 2 separate shafts, the same depth horizon. Think about what that means. Medieval military ordnance carved from volcanic rock that doesn't exist on this continent. Recovered from 100 feet underground on a Nova Scotia island. Not one specimen, 4. And they weren't found at the bottom of the dig. They were found on the way down. The void that promised everything.
A decision has to be made, and I think it has to be made today.
Earlier in the season, core drilling had detected a 10-foot void at approximately 150 feet in the Peacock area. An underwater camera lowered into the space captured images of what appeared to be man-made workings and metallic objects. Water testing returned traces of silver and gold. The team was electrified, and for good reason. 150 feet was treasure depth, arguably the most significant depth in the entire Money Pit legend. That was the zone where 19th century drillers reported striking metal, pulling up gold chain links, and boring through what they believed was a sealed vault. The Truro Company's pod auger reportedly passed through spruce, oak, metal pieces, and what felt like loose metal before punching through the bottom of a chamber and into clay. Generations of searchers pointed to this level as the answer. Every major theory about the Money Pit placed the treasure somewhere around 150 feet. Charles Barkhouse found a cement fragment in the Peacock 1 spoils at this depth. He connected it to the 1897 Chappelle and Blair drilling operation, the same campaign that reportedly brought up gold flecks and a small piece of parchment on the tip of the drill bit. If that cement came from that vault, the caisson was sitting in exactly the right place. When the shaft reached the void, the team expected the payoff. Decades of drilling data, camera footage, gold readings, everything converged on this moment. What came up were cobble-loaded buckets, water-washed boulders suggesting an open space but no structure and no metal. Gary Drayton swept the spoils with his detector. Nothing, no signal at all. The void was real. The space, real. The gold and silver readings were real. But whatever had been there, if anything had been there, wasn't there now. 200 years of searchers had pointed to this depth as the answer. The caisson reached it, and the answer was boulders. Boulders at the bottom. Peacock 1 kept going past the void. At 170 feet, material went to the wash plant. At 200 feet, at 205. Every bucket came up and got sifted. The team was looking for anything. Wood, metal, worked stone, mortar, fabric. Anything that said people built something here. At 210 feet, the caisson hit loose gypsum, a soft mineral common in Nova Scotia's bedrock. No wooden structure, no constructed chamber, nothing that looked like the work of human hands. Just geology. Raw, indifferent geology. Terry Matheson confirmed bedrock at 211 feet. The shaft was done. Rick was visibly disappointed. You could see it on his face. The weight of what wasn't there. He'd spent 13 seasons working toward this depth, and the earth gave him gypsum. MS1 told a parallel story from a different angle. A hard obstruction between 140 and 150 feet forced the team to push through with the hammer grab. On the other side, possible adze-cut wood appeared in the spoils, a promising sign that they'd broken through something built by people. The hope was immediate. Wood at that depth, cut with tools, would be evidence of construction. But the final buckets from MS1 delivered the same answer as Peacock 1. Limestone boulders. No vault, no chamber, no treasure. The reaction among longtime followers split down the middle. One camp saw the boulders as evidence that an original vault had collapsed centuries ago. Its contents scattered, compressed, or washed away by the same flooding that has defeated every searcher since 1803. Maybe the treasure was here once. Maybe it was destroyed by the very water traps that were designed to protect it. If the original builders engineered flood tunnels to guard a vault, Those same tunnels could have dismantled it over 2 centuries of hydrostatic pressure. The other camp saw something harder to accept. The clearest evidence yet that the money pit was never a treasure vault at all. That the legend was built on misinterpreted natural features, sinkholes, solution channels, and geological voids dressed up by 2 centuries of hope and increasingly expensive machinery. Both readings are defensible, neither is proven. What the depth data actually shows. The deepest excavation in Oak Island history didn't find a treasure chamber, but it produced something that may matter more in the long run. The first vertical profile of the money pit, from surface to bedrock. No previous generation had the technology to build one. Start at the top and work down. Between roughly 95 and 103 feet, tunnels confirmed in multiple boreholes, running east to west, predating the 1795 discovery. At 100 feet, medieval stone ordnance from volcanic rock matching the Azores. At 150 feet, a void with gold and silver traces that connects to the 1897 drilling record. A cement fragment that may link the modern caisson to Chappelle and Blair's operation over a century ago. At 210 feet, bedrock, establishing the physical floor of the money pit zone for the first time. The stone shot connects the 100-foot level to the Azores and the 14th century. The cement fragment connects the 150-foot level to 1897. The void connects that same depth to the gold readings that have drawn searchers for generations, and bedrock at 211 feet puts a hard boundary on how deep the original construction could have gone. No single thread is proof. The stone shot was recovered from wash plant spoils, so its exact original depth is approximate. The cement fragment is suggestive, not confirmed. The gold and silver traces in the water could indicate buried metals or natural environmental contamination. These are honest limitations, and they matter. But the vertical data set, assembled for the first time by shafts wide enough to stand in, gives the team something no previous expedition possessed: a structural map of the underground architecture from surface to bedrock. Not a treasure map, a data map. And data, unlike legend, compounds. Each new bore, each new shaft, each new spoils analysis adds resolution to the picture. The profile isn't finished, it's a foundation. Every future excavation on Oak Island will reference what these 3 caissons found. Every depth claim will be measured against the numbers Peacock 1 and Karma 1 established. Every theory about what's down there will have to account for what the team actually encountered at each level. Not what searchers in the 1800s believed was there, but what a 7-foot diameter shaft confirmed in the ground. The caissons didn't find the treasure. They found the framework for understanding where the treasure could or couldn't be. And that framework didn't exist before Season 13 built it. 230 years of digging into the money pit, and no one had ever stood at the bottom until now. The team pushed 3 caissons past 210 feet into bedrock and came back with a medieval cannonball from volcanic rock, a void that promised everything and delivered boulders, and the first complete depth profile the island has ever produced. What they didn't come back with was a treasure chest. And that matters. It's tempting to frame this season as a disappointment. And for Rick, standing at the bottom of Peacock 1, looking at gypsum, it clearly was. But disappointment and failure aren't the same thing. The depth data is real. The stone shots are real. The vertical map of the money pit exists now, and it didn't before. The treasure wasn't where 2 centuries of searchers said it would be, but the data from the deepest dig in Oak Island history may finally reveal where it went, or whether the real story of the money pit was never about a vault at all. For more on what the team uncovered beneath the swamp, and the hidden road with evidence that nobody can explain, check out our video on the road in the swamp that may connect the money pit to the rest of the island's engineering.